All right, now we're getting into the weeds here. Now we're gonna go a little bit deeper and we're gonna talk about swing direction, attack angle, and club path. I think a lot of you have probably heard the term club path and thought of it as being simply the club swinging into out or out to in. That is swing direction, okay? Club path takes angle of attack into consideration. Okay, so think of it like this. The simplest way of thinking about this is the more down you hit, the more right path shifts. The more up you hit, the more left path shifts. So we're gonna bring our hula hoop back out, okay? So we know swing direction. The simplest way of thinking about this right off the bat here is the plane is tilted in a golf swing. It's not upright, although we'll get into when it is beneficial to get this thing really far upright. It's tilted. For just about every shot, it's tilted, okay? So when it's tilted, you can see there is an outward element. When the club is early on in the arc, the club is traveling to the right as it's traveling down, and as the club is traveling up, it's traveling more to the left. All right, if we were to be swinging on a perfectly upright plane, there is no element of in or out. It's just always straight up. Okay, so the earlier in the arc we hit the ball, the more down we hit, the more right path shifts. Everything starts with swing direction. So to keep it simple, a zero swing direction here, let's say our swing direction is 0, we're perfectly in to in. Let's say we're hitting 5 degrees down, and just to keep the math simple here, don't want to scare you, a 45-degree swing plane, 0 swing direction, we're hitting 5 degrees down, our path is going to be 5 degrees into out or 5 degrees to the right. If we're hitting 5 up with a 0 swing direction, 45-degree swing plane, our path is going to be 5 left. So you could be looking at your golf swing and saying, wow, that looks really good on camera. It doesn't look like I'm swinging really far. Let's say with a driver, you're hitting poles. I don't feel like I'm swinging out to in, but I'm hitting everything left. It's because you're hitting up on the ball. You can't see angle of attack on camera. You can only see it with Trackman. That's why these numbers are so fucking important. So I'm going to hit some shots here and explain to you and show you kind of how to work from this, because as you get, you know, as the swing direction starts to move around, it becomes a little bit more complicated and crunching the numbers and all that shit becomes kind of fucked. But you'll hopefully get the idea. Okay, so I'm gonna make a swing here. I'm gonna hit down. We've got an iron. This is a 6 iron. Let's just see what happens here. Okay, so this is a good one. So we can see here my swing direction, my hula hoop was tilted a little bit to the left, about 3 degrees left, okay? And I'm hitting 2 degrees down, and my path is more or less 0. -1 is, we're gonna call that, it's neutral. Okay, so you can see swing direction and path are different. Now the more down you hit, I'm gonna try and hit significantly more down on this, we're going to see that path shift a little bit more into out. So it is possible with an iron. I don't know if you've ever seen your divots point left and sometimes you have a nice tasty draw. That is wise because angle of attack pushes path. The more down you hit, the more right it pushes, the more up you hit, the more left it pushes. I'm going to just keep hammering that home. So here I'm going to try and get my swing direction a little bit more neutral just to simplify this, closer to 0. I'm going to try and really hit down on it and we're going to see a much different path from that swing direction. Let's see if we can do it. All right, there's a cool one there. So swing direction stayed more or less the same, like -3. I'm hitting 4 degrees down on it and my path is pretty much 0. So to hit a dead straight iron shot, if you want a path of 0 with an iron, knowing you're hitting down on it, you actually have to have your swing direction tilted a little bit left. You need to swing a little bit out to in for a perfectly 0 path with an iron, okay? Vice versa with a driver, if you want a perfectly 0 path while hitting up on it, that hula hoop has to angle a little bit more to the right to offset that. All right, so I'm gonna hit another one here. Let's see if we can hit more down on this. Swing a little bit more into out. Okay, so you can see here, as long as you're hitting down, path is always going to be more into out than your swing direction. Swing direction is the overall shape. You start with that, then you look at your angle of attack, and that pushes the swing direction number in the direction that it goes. Again, when you're hitting down, it's going to be more to the right, more positive, more into out. So swing direction there, close enough to 0. I'm hitting almost 4 degrees down, and my club path there was 3 degrees into out. Okay, so what makes that path number go in the direction it does? Why is it 3.2? Why isn't it 4.2? And what is the math? So to go back, the math is very simple when your plane is at 45. When it's at 40, when it's at 45, 1 degree down, 1 degree out, 2 degrees down, 2 degrees out. So again, 0 swing direction. If you're hitting 2 degrees down, your path will be 2 degrees into out. As it gets steeper, your path and swing direction will be closer together because there is no out. It's just up and down. There's no out with the club. It's just straight down. So if you draw a line here, this is always pointing in the same direction the hula hoop is pointing. When there's the outward here, you can see it's very different, okay? So technically, path is the point. This is going to be overly complicated, but whatever. Path is ultimately where on this arc you're hitting, okay? The point tangent on this arc, okay? So let's say here's my low point. I'm hitting the ball here. When I tilt this over here, we would draw a line tangent to this point on the hula hoop, and we would see this point is pointing significantly further to the right than the shape of the hula hoop. Same thing, if I'm hitting up, let's say I'm hitting over here on the arc and I move this around, this point right here, if I put the club, I know it's kind of hard to see, you can see it's pointing much further left than the overall shape of the hula hoop. That is club path, where on the arc you hit the ball, the point tangent on that arc in the direction that it points. When the hula hoop is perfectly up and down, swing direction and path are always the same. They're always pointing in the same direction. Now, that is when it becomes somewhat beneficial when you're around the green, when you're hitting wedges, okay? So when there is a difference between swing direction and path, that also affects where the ball goes and the curvature of the ball. So I'll keep this one short. As you get closer to the green, it may be beneficial, it depends on who you talk to. If you're talking to a Joe Mayo or a short game chef, they're gonna have some different answers. I so happen to like what Mayo says because it takes an element kind of out of play. It takes a variable out of play. When you don't have to worry about angle of attack shifting path, all you have to worry about is where the hula hoop is pointing. So if you point that hula hoop towards the target, then you only have to worry about face. And with the wedge, because there's so much loft, if the face is a little bit open or closed, it really doesn't matter that much. If you're super shallow with your wedges around the green, then your path is going to be in a very different place than the angle of that hula hoop. So we'll see here. I'm going to try and get super steep here with the wedge, and we're going to see that path and swing direction, no matter where my angle of attack is going to be very close together. There's not going to be much of a difference. Okay, so I didn't hit nearly down enough on that. And we'll pull up here. I'm going to pull up plane as well. Okay, so there my plane was 85, right? With the wedge, we're going to be a little bit more steep. So I'm going to go, I'll try and hit as far down on this one. That one I didn't do a very good job of. So you can see there I'm hitting almost 3 down. Swing direction and path are the same. I'm going to hit more down here. Try and keep that swing plane nice and vertical. So there we go. There's a good one. So I'm hitting 7 down here with a wedge, and my swing direction and my club path are more or less the same. Now, if I take driver out and I go flatter, closer to 45, we're going to see that 1 down, 1 out relationship here. So there's going to be a much bigger difference between swing direction and club path as I get flatter. As this plane goes flatter, let's see what happens here. That was a really bad example. When I try and go flat, my swing direction. You can see that one, my hula hoop was tilted way left there at 10, so I got to angle myself a little bit more to the right. Did get my plane down to 43. So you can see here I'm hitting almost 5, we'll say 4 up, right? At a 34-degree swing plane, you can see how big of a difference, look at that. That is like a 6-degree, almost 6-degree difference between my swing direction and my path. So I'm swinging 2.5 degrees from the inside, 4 up, and my path is almost 4 degrees from the outside. So there's a much bigger difference, right? The flatter you go with that plane, the bigger the difference between swing direction and path. To hammer that home again, the flatter the plane, the more out and up, or I should say the more left, the more down and right, the more up and left, or just the more out there is. As you go more vertical, there is no out, it's just up and down. That was a lot. I wasn't planning on going into how the swing plane affects path from angle of attack, all those things, but I think that actually turned out pretty good. So you get an idea now. We've got our swing direction, hula hoop. Where is that pointing? The more up you hit, the more left that shifts path. Then the question is, well, why is it going to the number that it goes to? Why is that? And that's why I wanted to explain. That's why I threw in. Usually I'll save that for a second video, but this one kind of flowed good. And that was a question I had for so long too, is why is that path number where it is? On some swings, it gets pushed more to the right or more to the left. In other swings, it's much closer to swing direction, and that is the plane, how flat you are or how upright you are. So you might need to watch that 100 times. That's one of my favorite subjects to talk about. When I understood that one, for me at least, a big light bulb went off. Now, as a player, how much of this should you think about? It's up to you. Obviously, the less, the better if you're going out there trying to shoot a score. But if you're watching these and you like nerding out on numbers too, it's also really fun to think about, to analyze, and to kind of get to the bottom of whatever it is you're trying to figure out in your own swing. Okay, so I'll shut the fuck up there. Swing direction, attack angle, club path, swing plane. We're dialed. We understand some cool shit now. Hula hoop here is the savior, and now we are going to get into, what are we going to get into next? What am I going to get into next? We're going to go and talk about path and face, the ultimate, the secret, the final boss, the most important lesson in golf history. You understand face, you understand path. Life is good.